Welcome to After Dark at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, featuring Kara Delane and Ted Ings. This episode is brought to you by BG Products, partners beyond products. And now for your hosts, Ted Ings and Kara Delane.
Welcome to After Dark at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and welcome, David. But
hi, everybody.
I'm a little confused, Ted.
Why is that, Kara Delane?
I think I was the only one that got the 80s memo tonight.
Well, I think you certainly did, but not for long, if I know anything. And Kara, it's a great privilege and honor to welcome David Long, who's with us tonight for the full half hour from Hansel Automotive Group. David, great to see you, my friend.
Ted, it's always good to see you. It's been way too long. And Kara, it's good to see you again as well.
Of course.
All right. And Kara, we are live tonight. Is that right?
We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So hopefully everyone's sharing the video and commenting down below tonight.
Great. And I want to do a quick shout out to our exclusive sponsor, BG Products, Partners Beyond Products. And we're very grateful to all that they do for the retail automotive industry. So thank you so much, BG, and a lot more to come from Partners Beyond Products. So David, so much happening in our world, in our industry. And Roger Koenig, good evening. Yes, I agree. He is a class act, and he definitely gives back. David, you got a lot going on since we last met at the round table. It's got to be 3 years.
Wow. Time just, it really doesn't seem like 3 years ago. Other than I have more gray, and I think you have a little more gray. But
yeah, I got a little bit going on here. And Kara hasn't hit me up for the mullet yet, but I got a feeling with the 80s coming up in just a few weeks, that's going to be part of the menu.
It's coming.
All right. So our last event was the Wild West, and that was at the end of January. We had an amazing 4-day event. Dave, can you believe we're doing 4-day events now for the Fixed Ops Roundtable? And the next one will be in May, back to the 80s.
You are absolutely, you and Kara are killing it. Like, you're the talk of the town. My Fixed Ops director and some of the Fixed Ops people I know are always talking about you guys. Guy. You know what I mean?
And we, by the way, we love Mike Weldon. He does so much for the industry, and he's a big part of the events. And so is this fellow, Tully Williams. Do you know Tully?
I know him a little bit. As a matter of fact, I've got some video clips to send you that you could play of me videoing Tully and him not knowing it. Definitely got to send these to you because they are hysterical. I
love it. And Cindy, you're right. Kara is rocking the 80s tonight. Kara, give us a little insight. When is that event coming up in May, back to the 80s?
I feel like I'm jumping the gun here, Ted, but honestly, it's never too early to dress 80s themed. I'm sure everybody else will agree with me because our Back to the 80s event is happening this May, starts on the 15th, and once again, 4 full days. So the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. It will be all virtual and online, so you can go ahead and get all of your information and your complimentary tickets at fixedopsroundtable.com.
And a lot of announcements have started today and coming up tonight as well for the 80s. So, David, when we first met, we were in person on stage in Las Vegas. You won the Best Practice Award, as I recall. Liza Borges was there as well, won a Best Practice Award, and that was a great moment. And then the world changed just a couple weeks later, and all of us had to learn to adapt. I remember going through that period of time and not knowing whether the next roundtable was going to be in person or whether we can do it online. Should we just, David, remember, we'll just wait this thing out a little bit, maybe a few weeks or a month, this thing will go by. And we decided to take it online, and we haven't looked back since.
What a great move that was, right? Like, who would have thought? They said 2 weeks. Don't you remember? It was like, out of 2 weeks, then we're going to close down. We're going to get back to normal, and everything's going to be fine. It was not 2 weeks.
So, by the way, David, that's where I met Kara, because I had asked Kara to come out to that roundtable that we did in Vegas, because she was out there for the other big function that week. And when this whole thing started, I watched her, and she was online at the dealership when everybody else, at least here in the Northeast, was closed if they were not an remember the term essential business. And she was out there on the lot. Cara Delane was calling people in with this fella here, Eric Barbosa, also the best in the game. And Eric and Cara were calling people in when nobody else was able to do that. And I said, oh my gosh, look at this message. Listen to this. This is a potential superstar. And
that's how you found her, huh?
Yeah.
Was Eric with a cowboy hat? Is that how I remember Eric, or no?
I believe he has one, right, Kara?
Yeah, we have cowboy hats now, but I don't think that is Eric's true style. But he's adapted since living in Texas. But I really think Ted was thinking, this girl is crazy. What is she doing out on the lot? Her dealership's still open. And he started contacting me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm still here. What are you doing up north?
So, David, she was out there, and Eric was out there every day calling people in, right? People to come in and buy from not just from Texas and the surrounding area, but from miles and miles away in other states. And then I saw other dealers following that lead that they were doing there. And then I said, you know what? This is the person we need for the Fixed Ops Roundtable, because if we're going to go virtual, we got to bring people in to the event. And Dave, you were at the first couple that we did. Dave, you were there all live. This wasn't even recorded back then.
No, it was great. It was my first one, right? I can remember thinking, what a turnout. And you put on such a great event live. Like, I know you put on great virtual events, but your live events they're fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And
yeah.
And, you know, I think it was needed for the industry, right, to do something for Fixed Ops, because you and I have been in the industry the same amount of time, and we've seen a lot come and go, right? But there's never been a real focus on fixed.
Never, not at all. I'm super pumped that you're doing this, because I got to tell you, all my fixed people and all the dealerships, especially Mike. Mike's so excited. So when Mike's talking about being on here, I'll walk through any one of the dealerships, and all I'll hear is your program, your show, all 4 days. Seems like they're on every store. It's really cool.
This guy here in the comments, Sean Butler, who's at Hansel Automotive Group in Tennessee. Sean just won a Best Practice Award. Congratulations to you, Sean. I saw that they went out today. David won one of the first Best Practice Awards. But Dave, we actually had a complaint at the last event. A lady wrote me a message, a private message on LinkedIn, and she said, Ted, I got to complain about the Fixed Ops Roundtable. She's a service manager, and this is a true story. She said, when people walk by my office, they think that I'm watching a full-length movie or something like that with all the graphics and stuff. You got to make it doesn't seem like I'm at an educational event. So you got to dial it back a little bit. So I don't know what she's going to say about the 80s.
Oh man, that's what makes it so cool, right? You never know. Tully shows up with a hat that's 4 sizes too small. You just never know what you're gonna get. It's fantastic, and it keeps people engaged, right? Because you get somebody that pops in that looks ridiculous, and it's hard. It's like a train wreck. You can't take your eyes off them, but you don't want to look. Every time I see Tully pop on, I'm like, oh, Tully, put a bigger hat on. Right? It's just funny, and then I'm learning while I'm laughing. What's better than learning and laughing? Good morning, all.
Has Tully always been that outrageous as long as you've known him? Because I don't remember him that way when I first met him.
Oh my gosh, he and I worked together for years. He was so funny. So every Friday, he and I would get together. We'd close my office door, and we'd do a complete audit of all the stores together. I'd do the variable side, he'd do the fixed side, and we would laugh so hard the whole time my stomach and my face would hurt. True story. And if I send you some of these videos, like he doesn't know he's being recorded and he's singing, he's got food falling out of his mouth. He's just unbelievably funny. Yeah, he's been like that. So
when I met him, he was also in Northern California. Owen Moon, good evening. A great friend of the Roundtable Fixed Ops.
That's so nice of you, Owen. Thank you. Feel the same about you.
Dave, did you know John Anderson? That was the dealer at Courtesy Chevrolet where Tully was working when I first met him.
Yeah. No, Tully talked about him very fondly all the time, but I never knew him.
Yeah. So Tully was like a new service manager at the time, and he was sort of an introvert, right? And Anderson called me up because he was a client, and he said, "You got to try to bring a little more out of Tully. You know, get him to talk because he's so quiet." So
no way! I can't believe that.
So when I lost contact with him for a while. Then when I saw him a few years later at the Roundtable, I couldn't who is this guy, Kara? Right? He was waving his hands, beating at the desk and the whole thing.
Oh my gosh, I would have never guessed that ever in a million years.
Funny.
Tully Williams. So Robert Miggs, this gentleman, Robert Migliaccio, in the comments works for Liza. Dave, you know Liza Borges, and what a great person, what a great leader in our industry.
So speaking of Liza, I am absolutely so fortunate to be able to talk to her once a week. So, when John Malashenko and I talk Tuesday mornings at 6 o'clock, Ted, for almost 5 years straight. Like we'll miss a week or two. He'll get sick of me. He'll say, "Dave, I need a break from you." It's almost like being married. But now we have Liza join. Tully quiet, no way. Sean, I can't believe it either because I know him. I've worked with him for years. Actually hired him to go to Nilo. But so Liza's joining us on Tuesdays now. And she has added so much color, so much insight, so much perspective. Like Sean, you are one of the, is it Sean that works for, oh no, Robert. Robert, you are so fortunate. I know you know this, but you are so fortunate. Like Ted, sometimes I think I'm going to quit my job here in Northern California and move out to just work with Liza, just so I can be around her and her team.
Tracy, good evening. Good to see you tonight. And great friends of the Roundtable and of your company as well, Tracy. Traction does a great job for our industry. You're right, Liza. I remember when we met in Vegas, and that was the first time I saw her on stage speaking. And she talked about creating the opportunity for women, Kara, in retail, and what we should be talking about versus what we've talked about historically to attract and retain women. Kara, that's no easy thing, and Liza's done a great job with that there. And you've had a chance to experience retail auto, so you know that as well. It's not that easy.
No, it's not, and I think it takes amazing women and men in our industry to kind of pave the way for the rest of us. And I know being a young woman in this industry, a lot of the time we look at it like it's a big challenge, but I think it's super exciting to be able to talk about something that we're all passionate about and encourage other women across the world to be a part of the greatest industry that's ever existed. So I see a great future with women in automotive, and I see a brighter future with women in fixed ops.
Wow. Yeah. You know what? That's also something, Dave, that's not talked about a lot. By the way, Kara, how did you get into the industry? Because you didn't say one day, you didn't wake up and say, I want to work in a car dealership.
No, and I think I fall in the same category as most everyone that I met in automotive. I never dreamed that I would be here. And actually taking my LSAT for law school brought me down to the Houston area. And the day that I took my LSAT, I thought I was going to go to law school here in Texas. I met up with an old family friend. Her name's Shannon Pettis. She used to work for the guy that is one of my biggest mentors now, Eric Barbosa, who we were just talking about. And I met him 3 days after I took my LSAT. And he wrote me in. I told him I was only going to be there 6 months. And I was there it's been 3.5 years now.
Wow.
So I think the automotive industry just sucks us all in and then we can't escape, but it's a beautiful, wild mess this whole time. And I've enjoyed every second of it. It's the biggest blessing in disguise that's ever happened to me, honestly.
Dave, how did you get in the car business?
Kara, that's so freaking cool. I know. So this was going to be a vestibule for you, right? You were just going to try it out for a minute and you couldn't escape. Yeah, I get it. So I didn't grow up thinking, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to sell cars.
Right.
Oh, look at that. Michael Dooley, good to see you, buddy. Good day, mate. So I was thinking I was going to be hitting fastballs for a living and I was going to retire and everything would be great. But I got in the car business because it didn't quite work out for me, but it was just like a waiting room, right? I was just going to figure out what my next move was while I was in the car business. And then look at that. Let's get the event started. So I got sucked in as well, but I was terrible. And I was one of those things where I didn't want to quit on the bottom, right? I didn't want to be like, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I can't even do the car industry good. So I hung in there until I got really good at it. And then once I got really good at it, I was making too much money to leave. And here I am 37 years later.
Wow. Tony Owens, who was just in the chat, and Steve Apicella, good evening. Tony's been in the business, Dave, as long as you and I. And, similar story. I remember I started off on the floor selling cars. And I remember I probably went the first 2 weeks, with no chalk on the board. And that we really had chalk and we really had a board. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong business. And then I sold my first car, right? And then I sold the car every day for 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, wow, maybe I can do this, right? I was very green at the time, which is how most of us come in.
Great memories from back in the 80s, right, Ed? Right, Ted?
And you were a plan dealer also.
That was in the 90s. By the time I came around to being the plan dealer.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay. See, the plan goes back to me, late 80s, Kara. Okay. About the time of the mullets, when the mullets were starting.
Yeah, when you had a mullet, Ted.
Definitely had the mullet. I'm going to have pictures of the mullet and I'm going to wear the mullet, Dan Stockel, as well. Northwood University. Yep. And Dan, we had a good talk today with Mike Stoll from Northwood as well. So great stuff happening there. But I was involved with the plan late 80s. And then you got involved down there at Carlisle. And I know you gave Tasca a run for the money, or maybe they were giving you a run for the money.
They were a worthy competitor, Ted, but we'd kick their butt. Tell Bob I said that anytime you see him. We were the best. There's no doubt about it. We had the most amazing team back in late 80s, early 90s, all the way through the 90s, actually, till we sold to AutoNation.
Okay. But the focus now on fixed ops has never been anything like this, okay, in the industry. Everything's always been sales oriented. The conferences are always on, sales, technology for sales, F&I, CRM, those kind of things. And, when we first did the roundtable, it'll be 4 years this May. I've said that I didn't know if anybody was going to come to the event. And it's true. I didn't know. And now, there's just so many things. You're huge on used cars, Dave, and reconditioning and used now have been a huge popular topic for the last couple of years.
I got lucky to get interested in used cars in just the right time. Because quite frankly, I knew before I met Tully, and I'm not giving him any credit. Let me be very clear. Before I met Tully, I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to buy a car at the auction. I didn't know anything about reconditioning. I didn't know anything. And I was the used car director. I don't know if you know this story. So Sean Del Gran, which owned DGDG, which is where I met Tully.
Yeah.
We just hit it off. We hit it off. He says, I got an idea. Why don't you be my used car director? I said, Sean, I've owned one of the biggest Ford dealerships in the country. I've done just about every job in the dealership, but I don't know anything about used cars. And guess what he said to me? He said, that's okay. We'll figure it out.
How about that?
He gave me the keys to his 16 dealership kingdom to figure it out. So you talk about a petri dish that I could like learn, make a mistake. I made a lot more mistakes than I figured things out, right? But eventually I started to figure things out. I hitched my wagon to Melashenko, and I hitched my wagon to Dale Pollock. And then I just had so much good fortune to bump into people that helped me understand something I had no idea how to understand. Like I just didn't get it. So it's been so fun. But I think one of the biggest blessings is that I'll walk into any room and say, I just don't understand. Like, help me understand. Pretend I'm in third grade and explain it to me like I'm in like would. And that's how I've learned everything that I know today, Ted, is just by not knowing and asking questions.
You know, that's the best way. And Sandy Zanino, I see you there in the chat. Good evening as well. And Greg, good evening as well. You know, Dave, you're such a leader now in the industry. You lead the Hansel Automotive Group, Santa Rosa, California. I've been up to work with you and see the stores. You have an amazing operation, a lot of stores. Give us the story on that. What franchises? You know, where's the dealership in? Where's it heading? Talk us about that.
Look at Dan said, every 2 renew. You know what that means, Ted.
Oh, definitely. Every 2 renew. That was probably trademark at the time too, right? With task and half a car.
Yeah, probably was. It wasn't in their original script though, because I still remember it 30 years later. But
and we had scripts. Yes, I remember.
Oh, and if we didn't know every single script, we weren't allowed to greet a customer.
Okay, and in the back of the book had the objections. Remember the objections?
Oh,
you had the objections, and you had to know the word for word. And by the way, those answers worked really well. So,
is it a lease?
It's not a lease the way you know it.
Well, the answer always was, have you ever leased a car before? It's the best part of purchase. It's the best part of lease. It's a hybrid, and we call it a hybrid. Right. Like, how do I remember that 30 years later? I don't remember what I had for breakfast, but I remember that. What was your question? Now I'm thinking about 30 years ago.
I don't know. I don't remember either.
Tell us about your dealerships.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. What I do. So, Kara, I'm so glad you're here. Go ahead. Show us the Led Zeppelin.
It's Def Leppard.
Oh, Def Leppard. That's even better.
On.
Led Zeppelin's the 70s, Dave. We're going really far back.
Right.
Now I'm really showing my age. So we're in Santa Rosa, California. It is the most beautiful area on earth, especially since it's rained and everything's green and I've got mountains all around me and wineries and vineyards. I mean, it is just spectacular. The weather's perfect.
Yes.
We have 8 dealerships here, soon to be 10. Don't tell anybody though. And we have 2 Ford stores, a Toyota store, a Honda store, VW, Acura, Subaru. BMW, and Subaru. I think that's 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a nice parts center and a really great collision center that's really starting to gain momentum.
Yeah. And you are in a beautiful part of the country, because I remember when I came out to see you and we had dinner with Justin Hansel. I remember passing all the vineyards and the wineries on the way to getting lost to go into that sushi place that we went out that night, to eat. But what a location, Dave. I mean, just picture perfect, north of San Francisco there and right there in the wine country.
We're super, super blessed. Yeah, I couldn't, you guys got to come out. Kara, you and Ted have to come out and do a live here in California.
Let's do it.
It's funny to say that. We're actually thinking about doing something.
I'll set up the showroom for you. We'll make it your whole studio. It'll be amazing. Look at Tom Gregg. I think he's saying you're the best, Ted, or maybe Kara.
I think maybe you, Dave. And by the way, so it's Henry Hansel, right? He's the father.
He is.
Yeah. I had met him. Remember this? We didn't know that, but when I came out to see you, I didn't remember him and he didn't remember me, but then he remembered me when the training got started, because I had met him years earlier for a big Ford initiative out in San Francisco, him and Justin as well.
As you know, I started in the 80s, and I've worked for some great dealers. Henry and Justin are the two best dealers. I'm not just saying that because they're paying me real well. They're the two best dealers I've ever worked for in my entire career. Like by far, hands down. Now, Sean Del Grand, he's right there. He's right in the mix, but Henry and Justin have him beat out, and there's so many good dealers out here, Ted. It's fantastic.
And Dave, you're doing a couple things. You're on Clubhouse, right? You've got your own show. Talk to us about that.
So, I just like everything I've ever learned, because I'm a slow learner. It takes me a long time. I thought if I could get a few people, a half a dozen people to join me on Clubhouse and we could just talk, right? We could talk about what they do, what I do, how we could all level up and get a little better. It'd be super cool. Now there's 350 people every Friday morning at 6 a.m., wow, all just sharpening the axe, all just trying to get better. The contributions are amazing. The networking outside of that show has changed my ability to run my business. It's unbelievable.
And we have a mutual friend. I don't think we knew it at the time, but Michelle McLean, who's also, I think, a customer of yours as well at the Subaru dealership.
She is. Yeah. She actually bought a vehicle, her and her husband, and drove it like 900 miles. That's how far they came to buy a car from us. And I'm not the low cost provider. So she is such a good person and a loyal friend. She's like, I'm not buying this car from anybody but you. Yeah,
and she speaks so highly of you and the Hansel organization. And, she's done a lot for the Fixed Ops Roundtable. When you and I and Malashenko were on stage in Las Vegas in 2020. And by the way, Malashenko, I mean, what a story there with him, right? I mean, how far he's come from Ohio, and now he's, worked for OEMs, had big positions, and now he's, got the reins at the Germain Motor Company.
He's got humble beginnings. He started on the manufacturer side. Did you know that?
That's where I met him. He's working for Toyota. Yeah.
Oh, you said that. Okay. Yeah. And now he's the best leadership coach I've ever had. And like I said, 4.5 years, I've been clawing and grabbing and scratching and asking him questions during the middle of the week. And he's just been the most amazing resource for me. And I'll never, ever, what is that? Some great stories. I'll never, ever be able to thank him for what he's taught me over these last 4 years.
And you know what he's got, Kara, this fellow, John Malashenko, he's got a lot of persistence. He doesn't give up, Dave. And I remember when I was working with the OEM, I was frustrated with a lot of things not going my way for a while. And he said, hey, do not give up. Here's how you got to approach it. And you got to go in and you got to, here's the way they want to hear it. And here's what they got to hear. And, he coached me as well. And now he's like, the all-time great coach at Germain. So I think you and I are very grateful. I remember that morning when I was out to see you, we both went to the gym early that morning. I think you had a coaching call with Malashenko that day as well.
Mm-hmm. Just so blessed. Yeah. Look at what Tracy says about Les Silver. His first boss in the industry was Les. I love Les too.
How many great inventions and technology things were started by Les Silver, Dave, in our business.
Man, I'll tell you what, he impacts my business today. His team of coaches impacts every one of my fixed operations departments almost every day.
So we had a panel, I think it was at the Roaring 20s or one of the roundtables we did last fall, Kara. I don't remember. But Les was on that Legends panel. I think it was in November. It was Dare to Dream. And Les was on there. Remember, we had, all the people who had developed these. We had Jim Roche on there. Dale Pollock has been on the show a number of times as well. Dale Pollock, a good friend of yours.
Yeah, it's funny. Here's how I met John Malashenko. I was getting ready to become the vice president of a 100-year-old company with 1,200 employees. And I called Dale and I said, Dale, here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to leave the used car director role and I'm going to go run this big 100-year-old company. And he said, no, you're not. He's like a big brother, right? Like, what do you mean? No, I'm not. Like, I'm excited. It's a lot of money. It's a great opportunity. He's like, Dave, you've never done that. You don't know how to do that. I'm like, that's okay. I didn't know how to do the last 5 jobs I got either, but I figured those out. So let me just take it and figure it out. He's like, there's only one way that I will feel comfortable as your friend saying that you should take that job. Because I asked for his opinion, right? I said, what's that one way, Dale? He's like, you have to convince John Melashenko to be your coach. That's how I met John.
I didn't realize that connection.
So I called him and I groveled. I'm like, John, my name is David Long. Dale Pollock told me to call you. I'm looking at a job. The only way I'm allowed to take it is if you'll coach me. He's like, I don't coach people. Like, no, you don't understand. I want to take this job. It's going to change my life. And he said, for some stupid reason, he said yes. And I haven't let him get away since.
Wow. Yeah, he's a great person. And, Dale Pollock as well. What another great innovator in our industry with V Auto, and, all he's done. And he's really helped shape and change the way we look at used cars.
I wouldn't know 80% of what I know today if Dale hadn't, for some reason, become my friend. I swear, none of it would have made sense. He made it make sense for me, and I could tell he cared. And by the way, Dale's the reason I'm here with the Hansel Group. He called Henry, and the rest is history.
Wow. All right. So you got the Friday mornings, you got Hansel Automotive Group. You got a lot on the go, Dave. And I would like to invite you, and Kara and I would like to invite you back on the Fixed Ops Roundtable on the 80s event. Now, there might be some requirement that Kara has in terms of wardrobe or hair. I'm not sure. But we'd love to have you on the event and take up a segment with us. And I know you'll light it up on the roundtable.
Well, I already know what I'm going to wear, right? I saved some of my old high school basketball uniform. It's a little snug and the shorts are a little short, but I think it'll work, Kara. I don't know. I got the headband
from the waist up.
Oh, no, I'll be jumping up and down. It'll be great. Don't worry.
He's going to pull a Tully.
What?
You're going to pull a Tully on us?
No, I can't pull off a Tully. I'll do my best impersonation, but it won't come close. But before we shift off, I have to give Michelle McLean a little shout out. I don't know if she's here, but you see all these yellow pucks, we call them pucks, yes, around people's pictures on Clubhouse or Facebook or Instagram or MySpace. Well, Michelle was one of the people that helped me create the pandemic of positivity.
You know that.
And the pandemic of positivity has gone absolutely bananas.
Yep,
it's all about trying to bring more positivity to the world, right? And
I love it.
Just trying to leave everything and everyone better than we found them. Deliver some positive energy. Make sure if somebody's down, you help lift them up. And she was a big part of that whole movement. So, Michelle, thank you. If you're watching this, you are fantastic.
And Dave, that's what you do. You as long as I've known you, you bring that positive light. So thank you for all you do for our industry. So we're very grateful to you. We have a big event coming up. It's in May. It's still a little ways away, but we are now in the planning stages for that. And we had some announcements earlier today. So we want to announce that Back to the 80s event in May. Our good friend Tully Williams will be a guest speaker at that event, as well as our friend Sarah Van Tyne is going to be there. Ed Roberts, what a long way this gentleman has come in the automotive business, will be a big part of the event. Cara Delane will be co-hosting the event. And we'd like to announce tonight that David Long will be speaking at the event as well from the Hansel Automotive Group. And Dave, I am looking forward to that. And of course, seeing what you're going to wear as well.
It's a tubular event. Did I just see that it's a tubular event?
I believe Michelle, when she did these promos, said it is a totally tubular 4-day event, Dave.
Most of your audience doesn't know what that totally tubular even means. So I will dress according. I won't let you down.
Okay.
And by the way, audience, you can Google that term, totally tubular. There's a few more phrases I understand that are coming out as well in the next couple of days and weeks. So. You have to stay tuned for that. And Cara, when is that event again? I think it's in May, right?
It's coming up this May 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. And you can get all of the details and your complimentary tickets now at fixedopsroundtable.com. And you still have time to grow out your mullets if you need to. Right,
Yep.
Ted?
We are heading back to the 80s, Cara Delane and David Long, and very grateful to both of you for all you do for our industry. And it's going to be a lot of fun, Dave.
I can't wait. I'm fired up, especially if I could spend a little time with Tully. It's always a good time.
Yeah, let's make that happen. I think we get Tully involved with that segment as well. I don't think he'll mind. So,
no, I don't either. It's good to see you, Cara. Thanks for making Ted and I look and sound good. We appreciate it.
She does. Yeah.
Ted, always good to see you.
Dave, great to see you. Thank you. It's been too long, and I'm looking forward to great things ahead. So, David Long, everybody, Hansel Automotive Group, a great treasure in our industry.
Thank you. And everybody that commented, thank you so much. I'm like, wow, as I see them pop in, I'm humbled and I'm grateful. And I look forward to seeing you Friday mornings on All Things Used Cars at 6 a.m.
Okay.
There you go.
Let's do
Thank
that.
you so much, David, for being on with us. And I can't wait to see what outfit you'll be wearing for our Back to the 80s event. Thank you all for watching tonight. And we will see you on Monday at 8 p.m.